Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see about 20th century England. Before going into the video, please like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Now, 20th century England saw how it was in the pride moment in the beginning of the 20th century, and while the end of the 20th century came, England had redefined its national identity because it was declining its imperialism. It was giving freedom to all the colonies which it was ruling, and there was a rise in the welfare state in England, and also it went into globalization. The century saw two world wars, that is the First World War and the Second World War, and England also emerged as a welfare state and it politically restructured itself. There were so many economic transitions and social revolutions took place which shaped today's modern England. At the beginning of the century, England was in its peak in its imperial power because it had colonies across Asia, Africa, and the Caribbean. And the social structure was also class based, and the traditional Victorian values of discipline, morality, and decorum were dominant. But already industrialization had changed England's economic and urban landscape, and it had also created new social classes and labor issues. The First World War, which took place from 1914 to 1918, affected the English society. Nearly 7 lakh British soldiers lost their lives and millions of soldiers were wounded. Even common people were affected, and therefore it changed a lot. The society also had to change itself. Women started going for jobs and class distinctions began to blur. And in 1918, they said that women who are above 30 have the voting rights. But by 1928, they said that just like men, even women who are above 21 can vote. And the Second World War, which took place from 1939 to 1949, had a greater impact on England. Civilians kept on seeing bombings, then there was shortage in all what their needs were rationed. There were lots of evacuations. There was shortage of the necessities also, basic necessities also was not available. But this created a unity among themselves. So all the citizens felt united, and the post-war saw a lot of change. Even the government elected, Labour government was elected in 1945, and Labour government promised the people a new and a fairer society. And one of the most important outcomes of World War II was the formation of the welfare state, which was based on the recommendations of the Beveridge Report. Beveridge Report had identified five giant evils. One is want, the need of the people. Second is disease. Third is ignorance. Fourth was squalor. Squalor means being dirty, that hygiene was not given much importance. And idleness. People were not willing to work hard. So all these were addressed by the government. And 1948, the National Health Service was established, and this provided free medical care for all the citizens. Social security benefits, state pensions, housing schemes, and free education was introduced. And this itself shows that there is a shift from Victorian individualism to state supported collectivism, and the quality of life for the million of people had started improving. And British economy, of course, saw lots of ups and downs because of the war. And after the war, nationalization of many industries took place, like coal, railways, and steel was made nationalized. But in 1970, there was a lot of economic problem, and England suffered high inflation, strikes, and unemployment. And under the leadership of Margaret Thatcher in 1979, her government introduced free market reforms. They privatized many industries, and they reduced the power of the trade unions to avoid strikes. And in her policies, they revived many parts of the economy, and it also widened social inequality, which and led to the decline of the traditional industrial communities. That is, the industries which were there for centuries all saw a decline during that time. And by the end of the century, Britain, from manufacturing industries, it's changed to service-based economy, and they concentrated more on finance, education, and information technology. The 20th century also saw a rise of feminism, youth culture, and civil rights movement. women gained more rights in education, employment, and property. The Equal Pay Act and the Sex Discrimination Act went milestones in gender equality. And the post-war period also brought large-scale immigration. People from Caribbean, India, Pakistan, and Africa migrated to England, and therefore England became a multicultural society. But racial tensions were always there. And in 1960s and 70s, there was a dramatic change in culture, like music, fashion, and art flourished. The Beatles and Rolling Stones led the British invasion in music. London became the global center for fashion and youth expression. And the rise of television, cinema, and media reshaped public consciousness. And by the middle of 20th century, British Empire began to dissolve. India was given independence in 1947, and independence was given to many other colonies also. And Britain, it shifted from being an imperial ruler to a partner in the Commonwealth of Nations. And the Suez Crisis of 1956 symbolized the end of British imperial dominance, and it exposed Britain's diminished role in the world affairs. Britain increasingly aligned itself with European American interests, and this led it to its entry into the European Economic Community in 1973. And the 20th century saw great technological strides. Electricity, cars, telephones, and airplanes all became common, and Britain contributed significantly to medical research, nuclear science, and computing. Alan Turing, who is the father of computer science, played a key role during World War II. And later in the century, the internet, mobile phones, and digital media transformed communication and information sharing. Science and technology also reshaped education, industry, and daily life. Education was dramatically reformed in the 20th century. The Education Act of 1944 made secondary education free to all, and also it was made compulsory, and therefore all the people were educated. Many universities were started, and new institutions like Open University gave an opportunity for working people to access higher education also. And writers like George Orwell, Virginia Woolf, and E.M. Foster, they wrote a lot about politics and society. And in the post-war period, literature reflected working class life, immigrants' experiences, and feminist thought. And English culture now became more democratic and diverse. The monarch remained symbolic, but the importance for monarch was still there. Queen Elizabeth II came to the throne in 1952, and she became a global figure representing tradition, duty, and stability. And though there were a lot of criticism, she always stood for during the national celebrations and crisis, and thus she maintained the public affection towards the monarchy. And constitutionally, the century saw important developments. The House of Lords Acts reduced the number of hereditary peers. That is, hereditary peers means if the father is in one position, the after him his son will be given that position. And it also devolution of the it gave a lot of power to Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland, and all this shaped United Kingdom structure. And the 20th century England was a century where England saw many contracts and revolutions. Like from empire, it became a welfare state. From male dominant society, it became a fully democratic country. From coal mines, it saw even cyberspace. And it was also marked by conflict and cooperation, conservatism and liberalism, inequality and reform. And it also laid foundation to modern British society with values mainly for democracy. Equality and welfare became its core importance. And though the country faced many challenges, it emerged as a resilient and a multicultural and globally connected nation. And this is what I have to say about 20th century England. If you have anything more to add on, please write it in the comment box. Like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.